Yes, and here we are going to talk and discuss about and how to handle behavioral questions. Okay, so when we talk about behavioral questions, these are designed to understand how you behaved in your past situations, right? Professionally. So, how you behaved in your past situations under the belief that past behavior is the best predictor of future performance. So, here what happens? The HR people who are taking your interviews, they are going to assess you and the experiences that you had, the learnings that you had, the actions that you took, and understand how you will behave in their organization. Okay, so instead of testing the technical knowledge here, the questions like your, these questions will assess your soft skills. So, soft skills, that means your teamwork, your leadership skills, communication skills, then your problem solving skills, your decision making skills, adaptability, and your resilience. How adaptable you are, right? In different types of environment. And your conflict management. So when we talk about a professional environment, there are different types of, every now and then there can be some type of discussion that might give rise to conflicts. So how do you manage those conflicts? Then your work ethics and your values that are very important wherever you work, right? So this is what this particular type of behavioral questions will help you to help rather the interviewers to assess you about your behavior. Okay, so some of the examples for the behavioral questions is, tell me about a time you dealt with a difficult teammate. Okay, so something like describe a say situation when you had to meet a tight deadline, or give me an example of when you took initiative on a project, right? And one more I can tell you, describe a time when you had to persuade others to accept your idea, right? So these type of questions, they help the interviewers understand you, your personality, your both your professional behavior and as well your personal behavior. Okay, so they often begin with phrases like tell me about a time, describe a situation, or give me an example. So these questions, they are not some theoretical questions, not made up questions. They're asking about your real life experiences. Okay. So accordingly, you have to answer, right? We all have different experiences when we work, right? We might have good experience, we might have bad experiences, and how we behave during those experiences, and what are the outcomes and the learnings from those experiences that matters the most. Okay. Now, see, these are some common questions. Tell me about yourself, the ones that I have already told you, and then we have these also. What's something you have worked on outside of school? So, to understand how you are, how you take your community. So there are different types of, people who work on community levels also. So tell me about a time you led others. So there are, see, this type of questions. Tell me about a time, describe a situation, give me an example. So such type of questions are usually asked during our behavioral interviews. Okay. Now, we need to understand before we work on this star method why employers ask these type of questions. Okay, so companies need to understand, rather they use these are the answers that you are giving, they go beyond your resume and test your real world skills. So resume is just your professional information. So you have taken, you had these and these roles and responsibilities, only that information is available. But how are your behavioral skills? How are your interpersonal skills? How are you professionally? What is your personality? All these things will be asked through these type of questions, and which is very important for the organization, right? So they want a good culture, good environment in their organization, so everybody can work in peace, in harmony. And finally, everyone can reach to the organizational goals. So that is why it is very important for the companies to understand the behavior of the people that they are hiring. Okay, so they want to see how you think, react, and interact in workplace situations. So you never know in because business, the world, the environment in the business is very, very dynamic. So how you are going to behave, right? If there is a lot of pressure on you, will you put pressure on your subordinates also, or will you be a cushion for them? Okay, so all these things the companies want to know how you will react. So they want to check if you fit into the current company for which you have gone for the interview, into the company's culture and values. Every company has different culture, they have different values. So will you be able to fit into it? Okay, they want to evaluate your emotional intelligence. These days, EQ, okay, your emotional intelligence is something that every company is looking for. This is a buzzword these days among the companies, and that is what they're looking in their employees also. Okay, they want to see how you handle challenges through this, through the EQ that you have. Okay. Now, when we talk about how to handle these behavioral questions, of course, there is this STAR method. Though we have already worked on the STAR method before also, but it is important that we understand, how to work in this module also about the STAR method as such. Okay, so first is your S, that is your situation. Here, you are going to set the context briefly. So that means you are going to talk about, what you are doing and what your skills are, everything. Okay, you will talk about that. Then comes your task. So task is where you will explain about that particular responsibility or the challenge that you had according to the skills that you have discussed in the situation. Right? And A is the action where you will describe the steps that you took, the actions that you took to overcome that challenge or to work on that situation or the problem. Okay, and the result. Result is, of course, by result name itself, we can understand that it is where you are going to talk about the outcome. But here you have to remember one thing. When you're talking about the outcome, you have to make it quantifiable. Okay, say that I increased 20% of the profit for this and this company. I helped 6% of the customers, the company to retain their 6% of their customers. So you're quantifying it. It is very important to give that quantifiable result because it helps the the interviewers also to believe you easily, and it will it will give them a opportunity also to understand what type of role, what type of task you were doing. Okay, so for example, there can be a question. Tell me about a time you worked in a team and faced a conflict. Okay, so here your S will be, in my previous role as a software developer, I was part of a 5-member team working on a client portal project. Okay, so this is your situation. You're describing the situation. Then your T will be, midway a conflict arose between front end and the back end teams about, say, integration timelines, and it risked delaying the project. Okay, this is your T. Then you will have your A is your action. So T was time, now A is action. I suggested organizing a daily 15-minute sync up to track progress, clarifying blockers, and reassigning smaller tasks to balance workloads. I also mediated discussions to ensure both sides felt heard. And what was the result? That is R. This improved coordination, and we believed that the project was 2 weeks ahead. So here, what you did, you're giving a quantifiable result 2 weeks ahead of the schedule. The client appreciated our teamwork, and it became a standard practice for future projects. Okay, so this is how you will use the STAR method, which is very, very important while answering these type of questions. Okay, clear now? Okay. Now, when we are answering the real life examples, it is very important first is you have to understand which company you are going to, for what role you are going to do, okay, which is the role that you are applied for in that organization, and understand about your past experience also. It is very important to reflect back, right? You might have 10 years of experience, 15 years, 2 years, 3 years. Yes, you have good amount of experience, but it is also important to reflect back so that you can answer such type of questions. Okay. Now, how would you do that? First is prepare stories in advance. So you have to be ready. So you have all these questions we have been discussing in the previous sessions also. What type of questions will they ask in this situation? In this particular module also, we are discussing about the almost about deeper into the behavioral interview, right? So there are lots of questions that we are discussing now also. So from there, you can pick up some couple of stories, prepare some stories in advance, list at least 5 to 6 experiences from your past jobs. You might have done internships or maybe your academics. If you're a fresher, take up experiences from your academics. Okay. Cover themes like, you can write it down right now. What all themes will you cover? Teamwork, leadership, conflict management, problem solving, adaptability, and achievement. I'm repeating again: teamwork, leadership, conflict management, this adapt, problem solving, and your achievement. Okay. Whenever you are answering such questions, you have to be very, very specific. You cannot be generic at all. You have to stick to the situation that you're talking about. Okay. Don't just say, I'm a good player, I'm a good team player. Share a real life situation that proves it. Okay. And it is what the timing of the answer is very, very important. So what should be the timing? It should be between 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. Otherwise, if you increase it, they become very boring for the interviewer. Okay. So, and also too much detail can dilute the impact, that is the result. It will dilute your result. Okay. And then the impact of the result, there will be not much impact. You want to surprise your interviewers, right? With you by using the STAR method. If you increase the timing of your answer, it will actually they will not be surprised by your answer. Okay, it is important that you show both when you're answering it. Okay, even you might have got some bad experience also, maybe some failures as such. Emphasize what you have learned and how you improved after that particular failure. Okay, and it is okay to talk about your failure. There is no problem in that. But you have to talk about what you learned from there, and how you applied those learnings and how you improved. Okay, many people who actually talk about their failures, they have more chances of getting the job than the ones who try to hide their failures. Okay, then it is important, if you are see if your job requires some leadership skills, so pick up the stories and highlight those leadership skills or actions that you have taken, or maybe your initiatives that you have taken. Talk about that. Okay, if suppose your that particular role or responsibility requires adaptability, then share stories where you could handle the change. There might be some change in your team or in your working environment, so talk about that. Okay, So it is important to work on such type of uh, answers. Be ready with at least 5 to 6 scenarios in your mind. Yes, because you have experienced those scenarios, so you don't have to prepare on it, but just remember for this particular question, these type of questions, I can answer this using this scenario. So that is where you will learn about the how to answer these behavioral questions using the STAR method. Okay, but why STAR method works? It works because it creates an organized answer. Okay, it organizes your thoughts logically and it prevents you rambling. So, filler words are okay, okay, I did that. So, like that, like this. Okay, so such type of rambling will not happen if you're using a STAR method. It ensures what should I say, a very structured, crisp, and clear answer with a positive outcome. Even if you're talking about failure, but if you're using a STAR method until and when you reach R, that is result, the outcome will be positive. Okay, it demonstrates that you are self-aware about your work, about your roles and responsibilities, about your experiences. You have good communication skills because you're not rambling. You have a structured flow of your answer is there. Okay, and your problem solving skills, emotional quotient, these are something which many companies, almost not many companies, every company is looking for that. Okay, so behavioral questions are your chance to prove your skills, that is soft skills, with real evidences. Okay, technical skills, they will test you. They might use different types of tests depending on the type of technical skills are there. But for soft skills, only you can tell them what soft skills are there. And these behavioral questions are the best way to punch those questions with your experiences. Okay, if you prepare your stories using the STAR format and practice them, you will always sound confident, authentic, and very, very professional. This is what the role of an interview is, to make you for the interviewers to understand you, right? So that is what this questions, behavioral questions, can help you work on. Okay, so now there are some questions which will help the interviewers understand your analytical thinking. So can you describe a time when you identified a problem before it became critical? Describe a situation where you had to develop a creative solution to a difficult problem. Okay, how do you approach troubleshooting an issue with the cause when the cause is not immediately clear? So here they're asking you about your analytical skills. That is, if you're prepared for the unseen future. The future is, you don't know what the future holds, but you as a professional, you're prepared for it. Okay, so they're asking for such type of situations. So it is important that you work on these questions also. Can you share an example of a time when you had to change your approach to solve a problem? Okay, so that is what your analytical skills can be questioned using such type of questions. Okay, now when we talk about behavioral questions, they go beyond the resume. This we have already discussed. It is very important that people ask for such type of, they want to see, they want you to come out of your resume. Of course, you have to read your resume before you go. So when they ask you questions like tell me about yourself, right? So there you can talk about using your resume. But when it comes down to behavioral questions, your experiences will work. Okay, so some common types of behavioral questions are like these are the themes that can be used. So tell me about a time you led a team. Okay, so these are some type of questions. These are the themes that people use. Okay, so tell me about a time you handled maybe a situation which was like unforeseen situation, or some different type of scenario might have just popped up. Okay, like in for many companies, um, when COVID hit. So during that time, many companies faced a lot of issue, but there were other companies which were actually prepared for such type of situations. Okay, so the themes, when we talk about behavioral question themes, we have teamwork and collaboration theme. So interviewers want to know if you can work well with others there. So here they will ask you questions like, tell me about a time when you had to work with a difficult team member. Okay, describing a situation where you contributed to the success of a team project, right? So they want to know how good you are, how good you are a team player. Okay, then problem solving and critical thinking. So they want to see how you approach challenges logically and creatively. So for example, they will ask you questions like, give me an example of a time you solved a difficult problem at work. So tell me about a time when you identified a potential issue before it became a big problem. Okay. Then they can ask you about your leadership and initiative themes also. So like employers look for leadership potential even in non-managerial roles. They want to see your leadership potential. Okay, so they will ask you questions like, describe a time you led a project or motivated others. Okay, even if you were not the leader of that project, you were not the manager, you were not the HOD there, but still as a team member, you motivated others in that project. Or tell me about a time when you took initiative without being asked. Okay, so this is where your leadership skills are being questioned. Then about your adaptability and flexibility here. So companies, they value employees who thrive in change and uncertainty. So tell me about a time when you had to quickly adjust to changes in a project. Okay, or how did you handle a situation where when priorities shifted unexpectedly? Okay, so such this is where to understand how flexible you are to work with. Okay, because we have discussed before also, organizations are very dynamic. The environment is very dynamic. Anything can change anytime, right? So there are different types of shifts in the projects or maybe in your working environment. So how do you handle such type of changes? Then your conflict resolution shows how you handle disagreements or misunderstandings constructively. So describe a time when you had a conflict with a coworker. How did you resolve it? Okay, or tell me about a time you disagreed with your manager's decision. What was it all about? Okay, and how did you resolve it? Right. So, and sometimes, time management and organization also. So here the interviewer wants to know, wants to understand how you manage priorities and deadlines. If we talk about the company projects or work, there are, thousands, hundreds of deadlines that you will be working on, right? Or you might already be working there. So there they will ask questions like, tell me about a time when you had to manage multiple tasks under pressure. Okay, so they want to check how much you can take. Then give an example of how you handle competing deadlines. So you must be handling two, three projects at a time. So of course you have to maintain their deadlines. Okay. So such type of now there your failures, your mistakes and resilience. That is again one more very important theme that interviewers make sure that they use that in the interviews. So they want to test how you learn from your setbacks, from your failures. So tell me about a time you failed. What did you learn? So upfront, the interviewers are asking about your failures. Okay, and never say that I don't know, I never had a failure, I'm always good. No, this cannot happen. This actually is not possible. There might be some small or some big failures that you might have faced. Talk about that. Okay. Describe a situation where you had to recover from a major mistake. So we all make mistakes. We are always in a learning curve, right? So that is where you have to talk about your failures, about the mistakes that you made, the setbacks that you had. Okay, clear for everyone? Yes, okay. Now, all your please, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box also. Okay, I will try to answer them. Once the all this PPTs is done, then we will discuss them. Okay. Now, when we talk about answering different types of questions, so you know when you go for the interview, many a times it happens that you are not ready for such questions. Okay, maybe you are not capable of answering those questions, or maybe you might not have experienced those questions. Okay, so there you need to understand about how to answer them. They might be difficult for you, so how to answer them. Okay, so here can you see here the interview questions that are designed to assess the candidate's past performance as a predictor of their future performance. Okay, so this means the behavioral questions are not about hypothetical situations. They are about the real life experiences that you had. Okay, about your past experiences. So when they ask you, like, tell me about a time you had resolved a conflict in your team. So you might have done that in maybe in a small role, or maybe in a major role. But you have to talk about it in whatever capacity you might have done that. Okay. Here, the underlying assumption is what? That past behavior is one of the best predictor of the future behavior. If you successfully handled your previous situations, tough challenges, okay, before, so you are more likely to do that in the new role also. Okay, so that is what the companies want to know, the interviewers want to know. Matter that you might not have experienced it, or that you have we have already experienced it. That is why I told you, think about your past, reflect when you are getting ready for the interview, when you're preparing for the interview, reflect on your past experiences. Think about your failures, your strengths, how you have helped your organization grow, some quantifiable results. Think about that and create at least 5 to 6 scenarios there. Okay, it will help you out a lot. So, and then when we talk about what do they assess? Okay, these questions. So these questions, they assess the soft skills, right? Such as your leadership skills, your adaptability, your communication skills, your problem solving skills, your teamwork. Okay, they go beyond the technical knowledge. They dig deeper into your soft skills and your work style. Okay, so for communication, they can ask you like, did you clearly express your ideas? Did they listen to you? Okay, so problem solving is, how did you approach a particular challenge? Did you think critically? Leadership will be, do you take initiative, guide a team, or motivate others? For your adaptability, it will be like, are you flexible during changes, uncertainty, or failures? Teamwork will be, could you collaborate and build relationships effectively? So these are very, very important. Okay. So for example, they can ask you questions like, give me an example of a time when you had to adapt quickly to a change at work. So this will reveal, if you answer this, what it will reveal? It will reveal that you have a calm, flexible, and solution-oriented personality, right? When there are shifts, there are unexpected shifts in the environment, you are ready to take them head on. Okay, and you are a person who's calm in those situations. Don't panic. You're not a paranoid person. Okay. Now here, this particular block talks about employers actually they can assess candidates based on actual experiences, right? So it is, please don't lie about those experiences. You might not had a major experience for that particular question. It is okay. Answer with whatever experience you had. Okay, but do not lie, because see, the interviewers, they are not in the business last 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, not like that. They have been in this business for years together. They know, they can measure the personality, they can understand the person by just the way that they stand, sit, by their body language itself. Okay, so don't take them for granted. They are in that company for a reason, right? So try to talk about your real life experiences. Reveal your authentic behavior, your thought process. That is one of the best things. So employers want to know what type of risk taking behavior you have. Okay, by asking you, by understanding how you behaved in real scenarios, they can predict how you will perform in the future in similar situations. Okay. So for example, if you constantly give answers that show resilience, creativity, and teamwork, so it shows the company that you will likely thrive under pressure and collaborate effectively in the environment. Okay. So in short, behavioral questions, they assess your past behavior. Okay. To tell the company, see, this is how this particular person will behave in the future in your organization. They talk about all your skills that is important for you to become a good professional, a professional that the company is looking for. Okay, it provides employers with real evidence about your capabilities, about your skills, and how you will succeed in this organization also. Okay. Any doubts here, please put your questions in the chat box and then we will discuss. Okay. Okay. So let's go back to star method, because I think that let us work on this a bit more. Okay. So whenever you are working on your star method, it is important. First thing is you have to use star method. This is something, which I swear by. If you use star methods by answering your behavioral questions, you will definitely pass that particular interview. Okay. Because behavioral questions, they require structured answers, structured responses. So star method helps you to work to present your answer clearly and logically. Okay. So like, for example, instead of saying, I solved a problem quickly. Okay. So instead of saying that, you explain the situation with the task that was required to do, the action that you took, and the result that you achieved in a very structured. This is the flow that you should follow. Star method is basically the flow of your answer. Okay. Now, whenever you're answering these questions, it is important to be very, very specific. Be very, very focused when you're answering. Do not work on your vague answers. Instead of saying that I'm a team player, talk about that, how a project where you collaborated with the people or with other teams led to some quantifiable success. Okay. It is important in your star method to talk about your skills, highlight your skills with the role that you were doing. Okay, because interviewers ask behavioral questions to see your experiences, past experiences, and to understand your skills that you actually portrayed during that situation, those situations. Okay, so review the job description. Here is the tip. The JD that the company has shared with you, review that and tailor your stories according to that. Emphasize the skills that are there in the JD. Okay, and like leadership, maybe team leader or team player, or problem solving, critical thinking. So pick up the skills from there, use them in your star method. Okay, talk about your self awareness and your growth. So companies want candidates who learn from their failures, their experiences, okay, and want to improve continuously. Okay, so even if your answer talks about a challenge, okay, or a mistake, you have to talk about how you handled and how you learned from it. Okay, so you can say, for example, you can talk about, I missed a deadline once, but I learned to use the project management tools to stay on track. And after that, all my projects were finished before the deadline. Okay. Then, whenever you're working on your star method, it is important, of course, to keep it concise. This we have already discussed. Keep it short. As short it is, the more shorter it is, the more impactful it will be. Okay, no rambling, because you have already prepared your answers for that. Okay, stick to the star format. Keep your answers between 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, and just give enough detail to make that impact, not more. Okay, so when you're talking, you are trying to answer these questions using the star method. Structure, specificity, relevance, growth, and clarity are the 5 do's for nailing behavioral questions. Okay, so what are the 5 do's? That is structure, specificity, relevance, growth, and clarity. Work on these 5 do's whenever you are working on your star method. Okay. Yes. Right. Okay. So if there is any other question in the chat box, please write it down. Right. So we have discussed about everything that is there. So I am open for your questions now. If there is any question, please let me know.